Good day, everyone. We are the Group 7 in GE 106 Purposive Communication. Before we proceed with our topic, let me first present to you our set of reporters: Vincee Samson, Yelen Joy Tomasa, Christine Joy Onion, and Christine Ann Onion. Now, in this presentation, we are going to discuss about the following content. What is communication aid? Types of communication aids. Communication strategies using tools of technology. Multimodal text. Development of multimodal literacy knowledge and skills. Online presentations. Public speaking in a multicultural world. Guidelines for ethical speaking. And now for the first topic. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Vincee Samson, and I will be discussing about communication aids and strategies using tools of technology. So what is communication aid? A communication aid is anything that helps an individual communicate more effectively with those around them. This could range from a simple letterboard to a more sophisticated piece of electronic equipment. It is not essential for the user to be able to read text in order to use a communication aid. Many aids are symbol-based and still provide full functionality in enabling the user to communicate with others. An electronic communication aid can be a device that has been purposely built for that job and does nothing else, or a standard computer running specialist communication aid software with the added benefit of being a computer as well. And now, let us move on to the types of communication aids.
The first type is hearing aids. Hearing aids may benefit people born with a hearing impairment or those whose hearing has deteriorated but who still retain some residual hearing. Hearing aids don't completely restore hearing but can help to make the sounds you need to hear louder. So the picture shows an example of hearing aids intended for adults and intended for kids. The next type is cochlear implants. Cochlear implants, a surgically implanted hearing device, may be of benefit to some people. These are usually only suitable for people who have a profound hearing loss and for whom hearing aids are not effective. And the picture shows the example of cochlear implants. Next is telecommunications. Telecommunications, and particularly smartphones, it is rapidly developing area of technology with increasing potential to aid communication. Some telephones, including smartphones, have increased amplification, hearing aid compatibility, magnification software, and braille displays. Many people with acquired deaf blindness also use text phones or text relay services. Next is the deaf-blind communicator. There are also sophisticated devices being developed for people with acquired deaf blindness, such as the deaf-blind communicator. So the picture shows an example of deaf-blind communicator. Now, the next part is dedicated communication aids. It is designed solely for the means of providing an alternative to oral speech or to augment an individual's oral speech. Although some aids do provide access to additional activities such as writing and environmental control, their main purpose is to provide a means to communicate in conversation. Accessing the communication aid. There are two main avenues that an individual can use to access a communication aid: direct selection or indirect selection via scanning. The physical positioning of the individual user and his or her physical abilities will form the basis for deciding which access method is to be preferred. Now, we have direct selection. It is defined as the ability of the user to select by physically touching the equipment. This may be a keyboard, touch window, or a membrane keypad. This definition can also be extended to include the use of a head pointer, either a head or chin stick, head-mounted optical pointer or infrared head control unit, or a mouse stick. Direct selection can be done with any part of the body, such as foot, hand, nose, etc. The most common is accessing directly with the hand, either by fist pointing or finger pointing, or in combination. Jans and Clark, 1998. And now, the second type of access method is indirect selection via scanning. This requires the user to activate a switch or number of switches connected to the communication aid. The communication aid must be able to accept a switch and have some type of scanning area available to the user. When discussing indirect selection, it is important to have an idea of the different types of switches available to an individual user. Switches come in an almost infinite variety and can be customized to suit each individual. Jans and Clark, 1998.
So this ends my part of the presentation. Hope you've learned and understand the discussion. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Yelen Joy Tomasa and I am the second reporter for the Group 7 and I'll be discussing the communication strategies using tools of technology. Using technology in communication has become a necessity and it's now part of our lives. People communicate through emails, faxes, mobile phones, texting services, video conferences, video chat rooms, and social media channels. And as time goes on, more emerging technologies will change the way we communicate and it will be up to us to embrace them or not. Now, let's look at the impact or the use of technology in communication both in individuals and businesses. First is the use of digital networks. Phones and printers are all digitized, not like before when communication was hindered by telephone lines. During bad weather, most of the lines would go off. Now with satellites and broadband transmission, you can communicate with anyone at work or off work via the mobile phones. You can also send a file to a printer while you are at home and someone in the office gets the printout. Effective networking can provide us all with an abundance of opportunities, all enabled through building meaningful relationships with others. Now, by leveraging the power of our networks through digital technology, we can further discover, build, support, and manage these relationships which create these opportunities more flexible and at greater scale. Next is the text messaging services. Keeping in touch with friends is very important, so text messaging services have solved this problem by creating mobile phone apps which enable you to text your buddies on instant for free. A good example of this is eBuddy. The buddy chat service will allow you to chat with your close friends via text for free. Text messaging has become one of the most popular forms of communication. Being able to send a short written messages via mobile phone has clearly advanced communication in certain respects. The greatest benefit of texting is that it allows us to communicate instantly with other people wherever they are, but without interrupting them in the way that a phone call would and allowing them to do so. Also, text messaging is a very cheap form of communication. Next is social networking platforms. These social interaction networks have helped individuals discover old school friends and also get new friends based on interest and region. Before this technology, it would be next to impossible for you to find your old friends and interact with them, share life and your past on an instant. It would even be difficult to get new friends from other countries. But now, barrier has been removed by social networks like Facebook. Social networking created chances to the way we communicate with one another. There are a lot of benefits to be had from using social media. Social networking gives you a chance to connect with people around the world. One of the most obvious advantages of using social networking is the opportunity these websites provide you to reach people from anywhere in the world. As long as there is a connection to the internet and a profile created, you can become friends or a follower of someone and check in with them at any point in time. Some people use Facebook to stay in touch with family, talk to old high school friends, and share their political feelings. Twitter is a microblogging platform that is used for comedy, current events, and general observation. You can even connect with people from places you've never seen or heard before. Parental security apps. Gone are the days when you had to lie to your parents about your location. Now with GPS tracking mobile apps, your parents will install this GPS-enabled app and they can see where you are. These apps also have maps which indicated red zones so you can tell if your child is in that area. When something wrong is detected, the app will notify the parent that their child might be in danger. Parental security apps is very useful. One of the best features of a parental control app is that it can track teens' location all the time. Once this app is installed on a teen's phone, parents can always know where their teens are going or whom they are visiting. In today's sensitive times, teens are susceptible to getting lost, kidnapping, violence, and robbery. Therefore, it is vital to keep an eye on their whereabouts and make sure they don't go to any insecure places. Free internet calls. Friends can call each other for free using free internet call centers. A good example is Skype. With Skype software installed on my laptop, it can communicate with friends for free if they also have Skype on their laptops. This software can also be installed on smartphones like Skype. Internet calls offers many advantages compared to a traditional call, as it makes businesses and even online classes communication smarter, more flexible, more comfortable, and more cost-effective. One of its benefits is that it allows multiple devices integration, including smartphones and desk phones. Some of the internet calls we often use during this time are Google Meet, Zoom, and Messenger call. And last is the use of emails. Even though social networks are trying to replace email communication, there is a certain information which user cannot exchange via social networks. So email services like Yahoo Mail, Hotmail, and Gmail have ease communication. It's now very rare to find a person writing a letter because that will involve posting it to a postal office and paying delivery fees, which is not the case when you use electronic mail. Email is used for many different purposes, including contacting friends, communicating with professors and supervisors, requesting information, and applying for jobs and scholarships. Email is a good way to get your message across when you need to get in touch with a person who is hard to reach via telephone or is not located in the same part of the country or world. And you do not need to come to campus regularly to pass your activities. You can just send it through email.
Good day, everyone. My name is Christine Joy Tomasa, and I'll be discussing the topic entitled Multimodal Text. So, guys, do you have any idea what is multimodal text? If you have no idea, let me discuss about it. Multimodal is defined in the Australian curriculum as the strategic use of two or more communication modes to make meaning. For example, image, gesture, music, spoken language, and written language. A multimodal text can be paper, such as books, comics, and posters. A multimodal text can be digital, from slide presentations, e-book, blogs, e-posters, web pages, and social media, through to animation, film, and video games. A multimodal text can be live, a performance, or an event. And a multimodal text can be transmedia uses multiple delivery channels through a combination of media platforms, for example, book, comic, magazine, film, web series, and video game mediums all working together. Development of multimodal literacy knowledge and skills to enable students to effectively design and communicate meaning through such rich and potential complex texts. We need to extend there and all along the way our own multimodal literacy knowledge and skills. What is audio-visual presentation? The term audio, visual, AV or A/V may refer to works with both a sound and a visual component. The production or use of such works or the equipment used to create and present such works. Why do we need to have a good quality of audio-video equipment in presenting our presentation? The answer is just simple. Good quality audio-video equipment can help you deliver an effective business presentation. There is a variety of audio-visual equipment that you can choose from depending on whether you need them for a trade show, marketing event, party, or presentation. from the simplest flip chart to the more sophisticated projectors, as well as DLP and LCD projectors. The choice in audio and visual tools is many and varied. You just have to choose on what tools and equipment you are going to use, but according to your preference. Designing visuals. Good design aids your credibility and helps with understanding. Keep all visual aids simple and uncluttered. Always take along a series of low complexity aids such as handouts as backup. Why? Because equipment can fail. So you might want to be prepared to go without audio-visual aids at all. Audio-visual aids are very useful for a teaching process. They are facilitators for making an explanation of a topic that may involve difficult terms into an easy understanding. So if you are struggling to understand difficult terms, audiovisual aids is helpful. Besides, audiovisual are great tools to catch the audience's attention and help them to get involved into the learning process without problem. If the audience understands what you are saying and they are more engaged, they are more likely to be persuaded by you. We have the techniques and tips for using visual aids. Keep it simple. Avoid bunching things together. Leave plenty of unused white space. Make it big, bold, and brilliant. So that if your audience has a poor eyesight, they can still see it clearly. Keep it organized. Create a path the eye can follow. Use arrows and borders. Justify, center, and etc. Make something dominant. The most important element should be immediately obvious. You don't have to copy everything, just state the important parts. Highlight the most important element. Make sure you use color, size, and etc. Use strong, bold colors for lettering. So, this is the end of my discussion. Hope you all understand and keep safe, everyone.
Good day, everyone. I am Christina Union, your last reporter for today's report. And our last topic would be an online presentation. I will be discussing about the types of online presentation, the common presentation mistakes, the key points that you must consider and remember, the public speaking in a multicultural world, and last is the guidelines for ethical speaking. First, we will define an online presentation. An online presentation is a type of content that brings the traditional presentation to an anytime, anywhere environment online. Online presentations can take several different forms. In many online presentations, slides are just the start. You can add audio or video, web pages, images, forms, links, documents, transcripts, and social media feeds into a single interactive presentation viewer. Okay, when we say an online presentation, you can have it anytime, wherever you are, as long as you have your gadget with you and it is available online. And we have here three different types of online presentation. The first one is the online slide decks. These are the most widely used but at least sophisticated online presentation medium. Essentially, online slide decks are simply PowerPoint presentations that have been uploaded to a website and placed into a simple viewer. It is the most common use among the three, especially that face-to-face classes are strictly prohibited, and we are into flexible learnings and we are using a different media platforms so that our teachers could send a PowerPoint presentation that will serve as our study notes. Next is the narrated audio presentations. Adding synchronized audio narration to presentation slides represent a substantial step up in online presentation experience. The principal mode for most webinars is audio over slides. So of course, it's very obvious from the title itself, it is a presentation that has an addition of an audio or voice recording. The last one is the interactive video presentation. As engaging as audio-narrated presentations are, nothing compares to the total multimedia experience of the interactive video presentation. All the storytellers' communication tools, from their facial expressions, their gestures, their props, and even their interactions with a live audience, are on full display in a video presentation. This one is the combination of the slide decks in the audio-narrated presentations, but your facial expression, gestures, and your interactions with the audience is involved and can be seen in the presentation. Online presentations are often confused with the online meetings, webinars, and webcasting. Online meetings and webinars are live interactions that are typically accomplished with screen sharing software. Online meeting platforms typically connect a relatively small number of participants with both visual and audio tools. Unless they're recorded, they can't be viewed again. Live webcasting and webinar platforms can be closer in capability to online presentation tools but tend to be less flexible when it comes to preserving these presentations for on-demand use. Of course, sometimes people tend to mistook the online meetings, webinars, and webcasting as online presentations, but they aren't similar because those are usually a live interactions and you are sharing your screen with them while talking and interacting. There are some common presentation mistakes that needs to have an attention. First is not preparing enough. There are some presenters that are not well prepared and there are some errors about their presentations. If you want to be a good presenter, then you have to keep in mind that it is your responsibility to prepare everything ahead of time. Next is not familiarizing yourself with the venue and equipment. The thing that you have to do before you present is you need to be familiarized everything, especially the venue where you will present and the equipment that you will use in presenting. Next is ignoring your audience. It is one of the common mistakes that the presenter doesn't notice since they are thinking that it is not necessary when it comes to your presentation. But they are wrong. You have to know your audience so that the content of your presentation is suitable to your target audience. If your audience are kids, then you have to entertain them through your presentation so that they won't feel bored while watching you. Next is using inappropriate content. If you think that some part of your presentation is not important, then don't include it. You should only focus on your topic and don't add some inappropriate content, especially if your audience are very professional and it is for a formal occasion. Next is being too verbose. Don't let your presentation to be too verbose as it may result in dullness and lack of precision. Next is using ineffective visuals. As much as you can, refrain yourself from using ineffective visuals as it can affect your whole presentation. Just make it simple yet wonderful. Next is overcrowding text. If you are doing it, then your presentation won't be an eye-catching one. Next is speaking incoherently. Though it's very normal for us to speak incoherently, especially if we are feeling nervous, Just try your best not to, so that you'll have a good presentation. Next is showing lack of dynamism. If you are going to create visuals, just make sure that it will draw the viewers into reading text and could catch your audience attention and eyes. Last but not the least is avoiding eye contact. It is the most common mistake because they are not used to it and they are intimidated, but don't be. Just be confident and own the stage. Just consider yourself that it is your time to shine. We have here a 4 key points that you must consider. First, it takes practice and effort to deliver a good presentation. Second, time spent on careful planning always pays dividends. Third, keep your content clear and concise. And last, know your audience. Always remember these key points, especially if you are planning to present a presentation. Others believe that practice makes perfect, but for me, practice with a little more effort is the best and could make you a good presenter. Don't rush things and take your time in planning on what you need to do for a better outcome. Your presentation doesn't need to be long as it makes sense and the main idea and the thought that you want to deliver to your audience are there, but of course, you should know who will be your audience. Next is public speaking in a multicultural world. Cultural diversity in the modern world. The United States has always been a diverse society. These kinds of developments are not limited to the United States. We live in an age of international multiculturalism. The internet allows for instant communication around the world. Of course, an internet is very useful if you want to communicate with others around the world. Next is cultural diversity in public speaking. Speech making becomes more complex as cultural diversity increases. Part of the complexity stems from the differences in language from culture to culture. Nothing separates one culture from another more than language. The meanings attaches to gestures, facial expressions, and other nonverbal signals also vary from culture to culture. Public speakers can ill afford to overlook their listeners' cultural values and customs. The methods of effective speech explain. We need to stress the importance of avoiding the ethnocentrism that often blocks communication between speakers and listeners of different cultural backgrounds. Yes, it's very difficult for the speakers to deliver their speeches, especially that we have a different cultures. And there are some gestures, facial expression, and other nonverbal signals that are applicable to us but are not with other countries. That's why we have to avoid ethnocentrism. But first, let us define what is ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism is the belief that our own group or culture, whatever it may be, is superior to all other groups or culture. Avoiding ethnocentrism does not mean that you must agree with the values and practices of all groups and cultures. At times, you might try to convince people of different cultures to change their traditional ways of doing things. When you work on your speeches, be alert on how cultural factors might affect how listeners respond. You doesn't need to persuade them to believe in your culture. Just respect their beliefs and be aware of their possible reactions and response, as it could have a cultural effect to your audience. When researching the speech, keep an eye out for visual aids and other materials that will relate to a wide range of listeners. When delivering a speech, be alert to feedback that might indicate the audience is having trouble grasping your ideas. Ethics is the branch of philosophy that deals with issues of right and wrong in human affairs. Questions of ethics arise wherever we ask whether a course of action is moral or immoral, fair or unfair, just or unjust, honest or dishonest. Just be thoughtful and understand that we have a different beliefs and you need to relate your speech with your audience and expect them to feedback if they can understand the ideas you are trying to imply. Of course, we have an idea what is ethics. It deals of what is morally right and wrong. And we have here a guidelines for ethical speaking. First, make sure your goals are ethically sound. Your first responsibility as a speaker is to ask whether your goals are ethically sound. If you are to be a responsible public speaker, you cannot escape assessing the ethical soundness of your goals. Your goals must have an accordance with principles of conduct that are considered correct or right. Next is be fully prepared for each speech. A speech, as Jenkins Lloyd Jones states, is a solemn responsibility. You have an obligation to yourself and to your listeners to prepare fully every time you stand in front of an audience. Yes, as a speaker, you have to be physically and mentally prepared when you are speaking in front of an audience. It is your solemn responsibility according to Jenkins Lloyd. Next is be honest in what you say. Nothing is more important to ethical speech making than honesty. Public speaking rests on the unspoken assumption that words can be trusted and people will be truthful. Honesty is the best policy. It is still applicable even in public speaking because people will trust you if the words that comes to your mouth are nothing but only the truth. Next is avoid name calling and other forms of abusive language. As one writer explains, our identities, who and what we are, how others see us, are greatly affected by the names we are called and the words with which we are labeled. This is why almost all communication ethicists want public speakers to avoid name calling and other forms of abusive language. Okay, be careful whom you are calling when speaking because it can affect you as a speaker and avoid using abusive language. Last but not the least, put ethical principles into practice. It is easy to pay lip service to the importance of ethics. It is much harder to act ethically. Yet, that is just what a responsible public speaker must do. As one popular book on ethics states, being ethical means behaving ethically all the time, not only when it's convenient. Yes, it's really hard to act rather than saying it, but it is your obligation as a speaker to act ethically. But don't just act if it is necessary. Act and behave ethically all the time. And that's the end of my report. I do hope that you learned something today and you enjoyed it. Thank you for your time in listening. Bye!